Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to check if we are streaming live. Everything is working. Just a few seconds. If we are. Everything seems to be working. Oh, great. It's working. Perfect. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another BeLegendary Fireside Chat with my guest, Shelley Settles. So, welcome if you are joining us live, if you are watching on replay. And before we start, if this is your first time here, I will start by a short introduction. I'm Carla, and I'm a people professional and also a leadership and career coach and mentor. I've created the BeLegendary Fireside Chats because I love to listen to podcasts and interviews with people, but at some stage, I thought I wanted to listen a bit more and hear stories of normal people. When I mean normal people, hear me out. I mean that I usually always listen to podcasts of celebrities, successful, very successful people, billionaires, very well known people. But I know that we also have be legendary legends and leaders in other places, people like me, for example. So that's why I've created this fireside chat. And today I would like to welcome Shelley. Shelley, thank you for joining.
It is such a privilege to be here, Carla. Thank you for the invite. I have been accused of being ordinary, so cool.
We are all extraordinary.
Well, I like it because anything that I have done means that anybody else can do it too. There isn't a born into this rich family or born into any privilege. I'm as average as the next person who has just maybe taken a step or two on to hone what we all have.
Yes. And just a bit of introduction on Shelley. Shelley is a Procter Gallagher consultant, also a mentor for women over 45 years old. She's also an author and a licensed, listen to this, licensed and ordered motorcycle rider. That's amazing.
Licensed and ordained. Yes, not too many of us
Ordained.
grandmas out there. Yes, ordained.
So tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I went to Bible college several years ago because I knew that there was something more. And I used to laugh and joke about people who would go to Bible college. It's like, what a waste of a degree. But I have my degree from the University of Oregon. Go Ducks. And there was just pulling in this calling. So I went to Bible college and ended up getting my ministerial license, being ordained, running a Bible college for 6 years along with my husband. And as wonderful as all that was, it still didn't. I mean, it put me on the path, but it still didn't fulfill everything that I had on my heart to do. And so that is what I'm pursuing now, is not only finding what's on your heart to do, but then showing others how to do it, because we get so locked into how we always think that it's hard for us to think outside of the box.
And when did that started to happen throughout your life? Was at a very younger age, or when you were getting more older? For example, in my case, I've noticed that this awareness started quite late.
That's not uncommon to have it start late. I was in a network marketing group in my 20s. So I was into personal development back then, never succeeded in the network marketing business, but I was reading all the right books, Think and Grow Rich, Cybernetics, the same books that I would still recommend people to read today. And so I have always kind of been on the path and always been interested in those things. But I will tell you that you do get a wake-up call midlife saying, all right, half of it's over. What do I have to show for it? Am I doing anything with what is inside of me? So, the motorcycle rides across the states, through Latin America, stopping and teaching English for a couple of weeks to school kids in Honduras, everything we've done hasn't been the end goal, but has been points along that path just to live life to the fullest. I think of nothing being sadder than laying your head down for the last time and taking all your potential to the grave with you. I mean, that, if anything scares me, that would be it. But the odd thing is we're all in control of whether or not we do that. Do we give ourselves permission?
Yes, that's a very good question. And you've also had a few challenges throughout your life. Do you want to share some of these?
Sure. Some of those challenges you don't get to control. My mom died when I was a teenager. Father, in 6 months, lost his mother to a cardiac arrest quickly. My own mother and his mother-in-law, my mom's mom, who had a stroke when she heard that her only daughter died. So within 6 months, he had lost all of the important women in his life and was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So I had to watch that in his life. I had no control over any of those things, nor did I have control when he tried suicide 3 times and was successful on the 3rd time. I was 25. I felt orphaned at 25. Even though I was already married, even though I had my own support system, I wasn't living at home at the time. But life can throw you some curveballs. There's no denying that. But then there are the problems that we create ourselves. Just to back up a little bit, I'm a firm believer in paradigms, and you probably realize what paradigms are, but succinctly for our audience who may not know, paradigms are just that set of beliefs, your computer programming on how you think. It literally determines what you're going to think about, how you process that information, the lens through which you look through life. Are you an optimist, a pessimist, that sort of thing? So you really can't live beyond your paradigms. Your paradigms are going to work to bring you back to that comfort zone every single time. So having said that, my wonderful parents were parents of the Depression. So they grew up believing that money was hard to come by. I've heard stories of my dad living in a chicken coop. We were never allowed to leave the lights on. You go for a paper towel, and I had to tear that paper towel in half because I didn't need the whole thing. The little soap slivers that you can't hold on to washing your body anymore. Went into in the utility room, hot water. We made our own soft soap. We wasted nothing. You always put the extra water in the last of the shampoo container and get that last couple of shampoos out. That's how I was raised. What that taught me was, yes, the value of money, but it also taught me a scarcity and poverty mindset. So one of these challenges you alluded to was a business bankruptcy. My husband and I, again, knew there was something more. We wanted something more. We found an opportunity that was presented to us by people we trusted, but they were duped too. Anyway, it was a business that was sold to us with big construction company, and we had no business being in this business, but the owner was supposed to come alongside us and help us. And, without getting into that story, we had a lion by the tail or a tiger by the tail and could not disengage. He gaslighted us. He'd tell Ken one thing and me another thing. He filed fraudulent workers' comp claims, and the people said, we know it's fraudulent, we know it's not real, but we're just going to pay the guy because it's not worth tangling with him. So for 2 years, not only did we lose everything, to the tune of about $750,000, we lost our confidence. I can only speak to myself. But I lost my confidence. I clenched my jaw, and I don't think I unclenched it for 2 years. I thought my life was over. I kept myself in that negative energy because I didn't know the information that I teach now. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I teach now. I could have probably never gotten hooked up in that, but my paradigm was money was tough. You'll never have a pot to pee in, what I was listening to growing up. But I kept myself in that negative energy, and history was doomed to repeat itself until I chose to do something different. So that's what's happened in my midlife crisis, so to speak. Had a wonderful time living the expat life in Panama. We come back to the States. We've got to find jobs and fit in. And I got a job I just thought was going to be a dream job because I do a little bit of writing. I'm a book author and a copywriter. And I got a job at more money than I'd ever had before. And it was a remote job, so I could stay here in Utah. And my company I worked for was in Florida. And I was miserable. Yeah. Absolutely miserable because the company had issues. After the 6-month contract, I needed to move to Florida or sever relationships. I severed relationships. I'm so glad I did, because within a month they had fired probably 3/4 of the entire company. I mean, they were just dysfunctional and I was miserable. So at that point, you kind of realize, all right, history is repeating itself. What am I going to do differently? And it's that thought process that really put me on the path firmly today. I am a Procter Gallagher consultant, but it's so much more than that. It's, because nobody wants to buy a program. What you want is the gems that program contains, that hand-holding if you need to, that way of thinking differently and becoming aware of a whole new world out there that I'd never been exposed to, even though I'd read all the books, in my 20s. This was a step above, and not just the Procter Gallagher materials, but the things I was learning, like universal laws. I didn't know anything about universal laws, but they're as real as gravity. And gravity works for you. It keeps your butt in the chair. It keeps you from flying off the earth. But it can also harm you. And you don't have to know a thing about gravity. All you have to do is get a little too close to a cliff and you can fall off and hurt yourself. Universal laws are the same way. They exist whether we know about them or not. But if we're doing things that are in opposition to the universal laws, we're not going to change those laws. We're merely going to not receive the benefit of those laws, and potentially it can hurt us, like the bankruptcy. I kept myself in the, I should have known better. I should have done this, or I shouldn't have done that. You keep yourself in the woulda, shoulda, couldas, then you can't see the other opportunities. You can't see the good. And you're going to reinforce that pattern in your life. And that's exactly what I did, because I was ignorant of what was happening.
Yes, I totally understand you. I totally understand you, because I had a similar experience as well. At some stage in my life, I was in the corporate career, successful. I decided to also create, and I actually created 3 businesses. Didn't go well, and I also faced bankruptcy. So I totally get you, because I also had my moment where I was just blaming, basically, and feeling a failure and, what I'm going to do, single mom, I had my son, just blaming and guilt and all those negative things were in my mind. And as you, I was for a while in that space until I knew I had to do something. So just to help people that might be listening to us live or in the replay, if you are in a situation like that, but it doesn't need to be because of a bankruptcy. It could be grieving. It could be a career disappointment. It could be in your relationships where you are in a state that you think, I don't know what to do, and you're just blocked. You can't do anything. What can people do? What would you say?
That is such a good question, and I could approach it so many different ways, because it might matter whether it's a divorce or a chronic illness or a job loss or something you think you did to yourself. If you allow it to be your motivation, you're not going to stay down long. You're going to be like that cork that pops up in the water. If you find yourself in that situation, the first thing that you said, you realized you had to do something different. That was the same thought process that I came to. What I've been doing now has just been eking out a life. It hasn't been fulfilling. It hasn't gotten me any closer to my dreams. It hasn't gotten me to where I know when I draw my last breath that I ran the race well. So I'm a firm believer you don't have to hit rock bottom, but if you do, because it's a great motivator, this is so simple and people are not going to necessarily understand it. But I think you ought to stand a little taller. You ought to walk into any room with that posture. And here's why. It will make you appear more confident. And I'm not a fake it till you make it kind of gal, but I understand that. But when you stand taller, you encourage your energy to flow. When your energy flows, you're going to feel better about yourself. Stand taller, love yourself. Let's just come out and say, love yourself. I don't care if you think it was your mistake, whether you think it was your fault. Love yourself. Now that sounds simple. It's not all that easy to do. But when you stand taller and love yourself and approach life with that attitude, you'll have higher energy. You'll have increased confidence by law. You'll be able to think clearer, because that's a mistake that you and I both found ourselves in. You get so muddled in your thoughts, you can't see a way out. But just by changing your posture, you have changed the chemicals that are running through your body. You're changing your mental outlook. You're changing your energy. And if you make a habit of doing that every day, then you will see ways to walk yourself out of that situation. It's not a quick fix. It's not going to happen overnight. But I tell you, you can feel differently immediately. And once you feel differently immediately, then you have different options. That were there all along. The law of polarity, or you might hear the law of opposites, means that we always have both the positive and negative opportunities for us. What are you going to focus on? When you stand up and love yourself a little bit more, then even though they're both there, you don't have to beat yourself up for having those negative thoughts. You just realize that's by law. They have to be there. I don't have to focus on it. So you put your energy into whatever is going to help you succeed that day, and just take it a day at a time. Old advice, very, very necessary. Now, you want to know where your end goal is. You don't want to just leave your car, go out of your driveway in your car and have no idea where you're headed. Same thing with life. You don't want to just take every day and it'll all work out. You want to have a goal in mind. Otherwise, you're just going to fishtail through life and never really get anywhere. But when you stand tall and when you love yourself, you put into process the ability to draw to you the things that are going to turn your situation around. And you're going to recognize them because you haven't hyper-focused on this blue funk, this darkness that you can carry with you when you find yourself in a chronic situation or, bankruptcy, end of a relationship, any of those things.
Thank you. That's perfect and really helpful. And in my example, I used also something that really helped me, which is looking at the mirror every day to myself, to my eyes, to me. Again, value myself, stand tall. And usually there are a couple of things that at the time, I don't need to do this now, but at the time it was very useful for me, go into the mirror, look at myself, and remember things that I was proud of at the time that I have done before. So there were 3 things. I usually look at the mirror to myself and I would say, Carla, I'm really proud because whatever I did at the time, I forgive myself for whatever guilt I was feeling at the time, and I commit to a small change, something different. Again, looking at the opportunities, looking at the brighter side of the issue at the moment. At the moment I was living that, and going through that process every day, as you say, keeping at it, small steps, it made a huge difference to me. So something for our audience to try as well, if you are willing to. Shelley, one thing, you focus on helping women over 45. What do you think are the unique challenges that women face? Why you chose this to help women?
It's because clearly I'm I've got enough Nordic blonde in my hair. I'm over 45, and that's not a hard line, but it is. We were just socialized differently. Before we went live, we were talking about technical things. If I really have a technical problem, I call my grandson because he like popped out of the womb and knows technical stuff. I mean, it's something with this generation that they were always surrounded with it. I was never always surrounded with it, but worse than that, I was socialized as a woman to nurture others, to pour my life into my husband and my children and my careers. And, it's okay for you to have dreams, honey, but, you got to set them on the back burner. We were socialized to take up less air. We were socialized to live a very small footprint. We were socialized, and I'm going to say it right out, it was just on the cusp of women's lib. So we were socialized to believe that we were less than. And that is so wrong. That is so wrong on every level. But women my age or, mid 40s tend to have more issues with that than the younger women. The younger women like me, but they don't really get me because we're just from so different world. But the older women, they have some challenges in just stepping out and saying what their needs are because it's always about other people. Well, now at this age, chances are their marriage has survived by now or it hasn't. Their children are probably grown. It's their time. Whether they want to leave the corporate world and start their own nonprofit or start a business, that's been on their heart all of their life. But because they have not given themselves permission, they can acknowledge maybe that dream is there, but they don't necessarily know, could I? Should I? And these are questions that only your heart can tell you. But sometimes you need a little help hearing what's in your heart because you've stuffed it down for so long, you no longer know what you want. And so that's why I chose this population is they've got so much to give, so much experience, and so much that they could still do with their lives, whether it's riding around on a motorcycle. I mean, how's that going to change the world? It brings smiles to kids' face in Latin America, I can tell you that. But it's not earth changing. It's not shattering the world with a new invention or something like that. But there are women with those very ideas on the inside of them that could change the world, that could write, a best-selling book or a novel that, takes the world by storm, or I don't know what's on their heart to do, but they deserve the right to find out because they are just as equally important in our economy, in life. We've all been designed to be co-creators. And the problem is my generation has not understood the co-creation process. We just kind of see what's happening in the world and we respond and we call it life. And that's not life at all.
Yes, that's so true. I totally agree. But even with younger generation of women that I work with today, there's still something that society believes that it's the woman's role to take that that caring responsibility of the family, of everything, need to sacrifice their careers while husbands don't do the same. It's still here in our society, and it's one of my passions as well, is to help us to move away from that and bring equality for women in our society, which is something that I believe we deserve as well. So
we have a lot of strides to still make. And I'm not saying don't have your children, don't have your career, don't have your marriage. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying if there lies something else within you to do, then give yourself permission to do it, because there is a way. There's always a way. You just maybe can't see it yet. So I do a lot of work with people who have been hurt by religion, frankly, and that's my background. I wasn't born into it. I chose that path. But there's been a lot of people who've been hurt by doctrines in the Bible that really aren't there, but they've been taught they were there. So when they read the Bible, that's what they see. It's that filter. And I do a lot of work with women in society because social norms have been one way, and we're in a time of great change. So there's a lot of movement out there, some positive, some not so positive, but I can't be surprised by that because that's a universal law. You're always going to have positive, you're always going to have negative, and you're always going to have this pendulum moving back and forth between the two. Just like the seasons, it's not always winter, it's not always summer.
Yes.
It moves back and forth in cycles, and everything in our life has cycles to it. That's why you can't beat yourself up if you don't happen to be having a great day or a great season in your life. This will pass. So position yourself to take advantage of it and to get out of it perhaps a little sooner than wallowing in it.
What advice would you give to your younger self? I'm always curious about this question and what people will answer.
Remember when I said that I saw patterns repeating in my life and I wasn't going to do it again. I was going to find out what it was that everybody else seemed to know and that I didn't know. This is it. And let me lead into this by a quote from Bob Proctor, again, Proctor Gallagher. All our opportunities, as well as our problems, are in our perception of situations. And our perception is controlled by paradigms. Now, that is so full of meat, but just as when I was in this funk after this bankruptcy, I couldn't see my other options. I always had them. And so my advice to my younger self would be to learn how to control my thoughts and my emotions, because most people let them take the path of least resistance. And so they're going to get some good results in life, some bad results in life. You're just going to be tossed around like a pinball. But when you learn how to control your thoughts and your emotions, that puts you in control of your life. It works with the universal laws and principles that I've, explained in my book, but I didn't know any of this stuff when I was younger. When you put your thoughts and your emotions and you learn how to control them, that is the pearl of great price inside you. That is your acres of diamonds inside you. That is your ability to attract into your life more of the positive and less of the negative. That is your ability to keep you out of worry that, grinds you all day and keeps you up at night. That's your ability to stay at peace no matter what happens, because you're controlling your emotions, you're controlling your thoughts. Because you're controlling those things, you have the power to do so, by the way. It just takes practice. Because you're controlling your thoughts and controlling your emotions, you don't close the door on any opportunity. You're always able to handle whatever comes at you. And let's be frank, less crap is going to come at you because you don't keep yourself in that negative cycle. So that would be the advice to my younger self. Learn what I already have on the inside of me, because that's going to serve me until I lay my head down on the pillow and step out of this body. If I don't do that, just like I didn't do that, even though I was reading positive mental attitude books and I was reading this book and reading that book and thought that I was on the path to personal development, I never really applied it in my life, never really took the opportunity to learn how to do these things. And it's in the doing that makes all the difference. You can cram your head full of knowledge. I've got a couple of degrees. You've got degrees. It doesn't help you a whole lot unless you're putting into practice that which you learn.
And that leads me to this question now, because I'm putting myself in our audience shoes, and I'm guessing that the first thing that comes, control my thoughts and my emotions. There are different ways to do it. One tip to start for our audience, where they can start.
Okay. Wow. Where they can start. All right. Remember when I said, love yourself and just kind of walk into a room, stand a little taller? Great place to start. But beyond that, when you have something negative, flip it. You don't want feeling yucky. So okay, let's say in this economy, maybe someone's lost their job. And so you start getting sucked into that black hole. What am I going to do now? You have a choice. You can dwell on that, or you can say, you know what? I'm going to worry about that next Friday. And you don't allow yourself, every time your mind gets there, you go, nope, you'll have your, you'll have your say, but next Friday. Right now, I'm just going to think that a better job is going to come my way. A job with more money, closer to home, better hours, something I enjoy more. You keep yourself that this is an opportunity. I can't see it now. I mean, you don't be Pollyannish about it. I can't see it now. You can acknowledge that, but I know it's out there because the law, a universal law, says that it's out there. So I'm just going to trust in that. I'm going to worry later. And I don't know if you know who Mary Morrissey is, but this was a principle. She is like Bob Proctor in the personal development business. And she heard of this years ago. And within like a week, she had opportunity of just that very thing. Husband lost a job. She's in this master's program. Oh my goodness, I've got mouths to feed. What am I going to do? And she said, I remembered. I'm supposed to schedule that 3 days from now. I'll allow myself to worry. And so whenever it would pop up, because it does, she said, nope, I'll hear what you have to say, mind. But on, 3 days from now, it's on the calendar. I'll worry then. Within 3 days, he had a better job, closer to home, one he could ride his bike to, better hours. Why? Because she didn't hold that problem to herself. She didn't dismiss it. She said, I'll worry about you later, so that her mind could calm down. It knew that at least I'm going to be able to have my say. We'll have a pity party on this day. So it didn't shrink and contract. And that's what I'm talking about, is that shrink and contract. You feel very hemmed in and you start that cycle. What would have happened? Would he have not gotten this job? I don't know, but I will tell you what would have happened if she had not scheduled her pity party for later. She would have felt all that stress, all that worry, all that, beating yourself up over, well, I should have done this, or we should have done that, or I shouldn't have done this. You live in misery for that period of time for no reason. So back to that tip is, if you've got this negative coming in, flip it. Because the law of polarity says that both the positive and the negative operate in the same space. It occupies the same space. So if there's a negative, inherent in that situation is the solution. We keep ourselves not seeing it when we allow ourselves to constrict and close in. Great example, and I don't want to dominate here, but I just read it this morning in another book I was reading. It's a little like polarizing sunglasses. Now, I'm not wearing sunglasses, but I have polarizing sunglasses in my purse. I wear them whenever I drive. What they do is they cut down the glare. Without them, the glare, being the negative, really makes it hard for you to see other things. They're out there. You just can't see them because you're squinting because of the glare. So the polarizing sunglasses cut out the glare, allows you to see what's really out there. Now, if you're not wearing the glasses, are the good stuff out there? Of course, but you're struggling because you can't see through the negative. That's the same mental concept that happens when you choose to focus on the positive. Even if you can't see it, it's out there. By law, it has to be out there. And by choosing positive, you cut out the glare that makes you miserable, that makes it hard to sleep at night, that puts fear in you unnecessarily. So it's a huge thing just to realize I've got the power within me. Might require a little practice, but I've got the power within me to choose what kind of thought I'm going to have. The Bible says, I've set before you life and death. Choose life. In every situation, there is life and death. You can choose the negative and all forms of it, or you can choose the positive. It sounds like something Robert Schuller would say. People in my generation would probably remember Robert Schuller, but he was on to something.
Yes. And I agree. I totally agree with you. When you really change your perspective and focus on the positive side, on the light, on it opens the door to new opportunities, because you will see things differently. You will feel different. You will respond to whatever situation happens to you differently, which will lead to new opportunities, good ones. So I totally, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Different results. And that's the definition of insanity. When you and I got ourselves painted in the corner and we knew something had to change, we made that decision.
Yes.
We were going to change. For me, it was, I'm going to learn the stuff that has been eluding me all my life. I'm going to learn out how life works. That's why I'm so passionate, so excited. That's what you're so passionate and excited about, is knowing the changes that you brought in your life and knowing that you can help the women that you serve. But it all comes down to choice. And
Yes.
many people don't feel like they have that choice. That's my message. You always have a choice. Now, do you exercise the choice perfectly all the time? Probably not. I know I don't. But if you're on the path headed in that direction, you're going to get there. You don't want to get off the path and go on a different one, but you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, but it's that coming back every morning and making that choice. Today, I'm going to be in control of my thoughts and my energy and my emotions. Today, I'm going to do what I know by intuition that will get me a step or two closer to my dreams. Because if we don't fulfill our dreams, I mean, that's the whole reason why we're here. People think
Exactly.
that dreams are selfish. They are far from selfish. That desire by law means that you have the ability to get. It may not look exactly the way you dreamt it would, but that desire is not selfish at all. It actually means of the Father, sire. D is of, and sire is father, of the Father. So any desire that you have, and I'm not a religious person, but I'm a very spiritual person, that is God co-creating through you and urging you to get out of the nest, try your wings, fly, because we're all living so much lower than how we were created to live. That's my personal belief.
Yes. And sometimes I usually say that when we are born, when we are children, we have so many dreams and we are so courageous and creative and we just want to do things and we try them. But once we start to be ingrained in the day-to-day society, even our family, our parents, and I speak for myself because I'm a mom as well, we just start to live as per society. We forget our dreams and we just do either what our teachers say we are good at or our parents, and we forget our dreams. And sometimes we need to go back to our childhood and remember our dreams, the things that our desires, the things that we really want.
Absolutely. If you understand anything about paradigms, most of experts will say personalities are pretty much set by age 6 or 7. What that means is that for the most part, adults like you and I are making decisions based on the mindset of a 6 or 7-year-old. If that's true, and I believe it is, why can't we go back and also pick up the desires of that 6 and 7-year-old? I totally agree with you, Carla, because that person loses those things when they're socialized because of rejection or being shamed or scolded. We cut back just a little bit. We cut back just a little bit until we're in our very small comfort zone. We call it a comfort zone. It's not comfortable at all for most people, but that's familiar to us. That tells us what we think we can and cannot do. Well, that is a paradigm. If you think you can't, you can't. If you think you can, you can. That's kind of a paraphrase of Henry Ford's famous saying, but that is so true. And that's why I love doing what I do, because when you talk to someone and you see the light come in their eyes, that maybe they can, start that nonprofit or whatever's on their heart to do. I know they can. I can see in them things that they aren't able to see themselves because of their socialization and of their set. And the world is still a great place. The world still is full of opportunity. The world is still
Abundance.
abundance. Exactly. Abundance. Abundance. I thoroughly believe that. It's just where you're looking for it. If you look inside, you'll find everything you need. Stop making your decisions based on what you think you see outside. Because just like the polarizing sunglasses, you're only seeing, you're either seeing the negative and the good stuff's obscured, or you can put on your polarizing sunglasses and see opportunities out there, because they both exist. The problems and our opportunities are both in our perception, just like the Bob Proctor quote that I read.
Thank you, Shelley. It has been an insightful chat with a lot of tips and knowledge. We are almost finishing, but one last question for you. What is one specific action or a small step that you would like our audience to feel inspired to take as soon as we finish our chat in order to improve their lives or being able to make that choice?
We didn't really get into it, but I believe that we all, as Bob Proctor says, we were born rich. That's not the economic, status family you were born into. That's what's inside of you, your creative ability. That's your ability to visualize and imagine and be inspired to take those steps. So first, understand that you, our listeners, are just as capable as Carla and I. Maybe we've been on the path a little longer, but you are just as capable. So once you accept that and you step into that, I love myself, regardless of my faults, regardless of my mistakes, own it all. That's made you who you are. I would not have gone back and changed. There were years I wanted to go back and change what happened to me, but I certainly don't now, because it's given me insight and who I am right now. And I like who I am right now. I'm still on that process of growing. So the one step that they can take is realize that Carla and I, we're no different than you. When you begin to acknowledge the good things that are on the inside of you, then that starts a momentum. And then there's an old adage, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When you start saying, you know what, I am going to learn, I am going to love myself, I'm going to cherish every day. It's just that mental mindset that puts you in the top percentage of people, because most people don't do this. Most people are just letting their thoughts go wherever they go. But when you start each day being grateful and acknowledging the good things, acknowledging the blessings, then you'll see the path appear. I saw the Indiana Jones movie, but it reminded me of one of the middle ones where he had to cross this bridge that doesn't appear to be there. It was a leap of faith. Every day you can do your own leap of faith, knowing that bridge will undergird you. You may not be able to see it, but it's there. If you wake up with that gratitude, if you wake up loving yourself and owning every bit of yourself, appreciating what you have, that path will begin to appear for you. And of course, there are good books, there are good mentors, there are lots of places where you can just open that door a little bit. I'm a little bit at a loss, Carla, because there's just so much I want to say, and I know we have to wrap this up. But yeah, be grateful, love yourself, stand tall. Doesn't matter what you went through. You are a valuable, worthwhile human being who deserves to live your life unapologetically. Live your life knowing that you have something to contribute. What a waste if you don't contribute.
Yes, live your life on your own terms.
Live your life on your own terms. The world needs that.
Yeah,
it's selfish not to.
Thank you, Shelley. It's been inspiring and insightful. If our audience wants to reach out to you, do you have a way for them to do it?
Would you like to do? Let me see if, oops, that is not what I had in my clipboard. I thought that I had it all set up, but let me
Or
go grab that
we
again.
can put it in the comments afterwards as well if you
let's do that as well. But here it is. I have a website and an email, or you can just DM me in Facebook. But that's my contact information.
Thank you very much. It was lovely to chat with you. And thank you everyone who joined us live or on the replay. If there's anything you need from us, any questions, just DM us, reach out to us, put comments if you want to be part of the conversation as well. And we will see you next time. Thank you. Thanks, Shelley. It was lovely.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Carla. You have a great day. Everyone be blessed.
Thank you. Bye.